Australian ladies in business. Welcome to the HerStory podcast. I'm your host, Kylie King, the founder of Australian Ladies in Business Initiative. And today we're taking the podcast a little bit different. We are being joined by the incredible Emilia from Zeller to share with us everything about Zeller, talking about the partnership. And it's so great to see the women behind the businesses that are now supporting small business. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Kylie. I'm super excited.
So you are the head of regional sales in Victoria for Zeller. So just before we get started, I would like to know, would you be willing to share with the listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course, of course. So my name is Emilia. Great to be on the podcast. I have, I guess, maybe a non-traditional background in how I got here. I graduated uni in the start to middle of COVID, and I thought I'd just get a grad job like everyone else and find my way. And then there was no grad job, so I ended up working my first sales job, which was for a freight forwarder, like nothing I thought I'd ever do. I then ended up studying my JD for a year, and then I dropped out of that, and not my thing. And then I got back into sales, and I was like, oh, this is actually a career, and I can kind of do this full time. Ended up at Zeller in an SMB role, so in the small to medium business space, just working as an account executive, and I've worked my way up into the regional sales manager role, which again, something I wouldn't expect. But yeah, that's a bit about me.
Beautiful. So for those who are listening and might not be aware, what is Zeller? What is the product? Who are you working for?
Yeah, great question. So Zeller, I like to think, is an alternative to the big banks in terms of FPOS providing and also other financial services. So the main thing that we sell as a sales team is the FPOS terminal. So think of Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, ANZ. It's probably something you don't notice when you go to the shop. So what terminal you pay on, you just tap your phone and walk away. But once you start to look, you'll see that there's these banks that provide FPOS terminals, and then you have the other providers as well in the space. There's plenty of other providers. So we go up against those and the big banks, and what we're really looking to do is help those small to medium sized Aussie businesses make payments clearer and easier, understand what they're being charged, which is super important now with the upcoming surcharging ban, and also just have a good product that is made for Australians in Australia.
And what I like about Zeller as well is that you actually have, I believe, and if I'm wrong, please, because you are the expertise. I've just seen what we've read in the partnership that we have with them. There is a bank account that is linked to where the money goes, which I think is awesome because there's a lot of people at the moment that has a lot of mistrust for the big four banks or the banks that are happening.
Exactly.
The fact that you can, if you're a hobby business or you don't want to go and do all the paperwork in
Yeah.
branch, you have that option to have a bank account with Zeller. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, that's correct. So we have a few different ways to settle your funds. So one of them is that you just, you have a bank account already, which a lot of businesses do, and you can just traditionally settle into that. But we do have our own bank account. We have savings accounts. You're able to transfer in and out, and it does make it really easy for those hobby businesses or just businesses that are starting up. They don't need to do any paperwork. They just need to sign up online, put their details in there, and it's all set up, ready to go, connected to your FPOS terminal. So yeah, we're really looking out for the micro and small businesses of Australia. There's so many, hobbyists and, farmers markets and people that are just looking to get started. So we want to make it easy for them, especially with, banks closing their branches around Australia. We're kind of a one-stop shop in some ways to get everything you need to start your business up for a low cost.
yeah, and I think that's such an important thing, especially in regional locations. Banks are shutting down everywhere. I even know I myself live in the Blue Mountains. We've got bank branches shutting down all the time. But to have that option where you can't go into a branch, or you might not, you don't know if you, I guess, as a startup, is this going to work? You know that Zeller's going to be with you in the beginning, and then as you grow.
Yeah, exactly. We do obviously, our main kind of bread and butter is those small to medium-sized businesses, but we do also service plenty of enterprise customers. So it's really cool to see, I guess, the breadth of the product and see how it can, service the little guy, so to speak, and also larger businesses that are multi-site around Australia. We have some really cool customers, that are, have multiple locations, franchises, that sort of stuff, which is really awesome to see. And, I started selling to those really small businesses and kind of grew my skills and grew my customer set. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that part of the journey.
Beautiful. So you're in, I guess, Zeller is like a maturing startup. So how do you differ from banks and traditional finance?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I've seen kind of different phases of Zeller. So, been with the company for nearly 4 years, and we actually just celebrated our fifth birthday, so to speak. So, 5 years in market, 6 years as a company. I think a few ways. I think one is price transparency. So, if you go on our website, you'll see we just have that one flat fee for all card types. I don't know if you've ever run a business, you would know that the banks offer sometimes quite a confusing price structure. And a lot of people I speak to don't actually know what they're being charged by the banks. They don't really ever look into it. They've obviously got a million things on their plate being a business owner, and FPOS fees are probably at the bottom. And so we like to think that we're really transparent with our pricing. It's very clear what we are charging you, and makes it easy for businesses to understand. And I also think, at least for my Victorian sales team, like we are on the ground every day meeting with business owners, and we try and have that face-to-face interaction, and again connected to the branches closing. I think meeting someone face-to-face, especially in the age of AI, is priceless. It's one of the things that you can't take away from us in a way. And so we really try to provide like really top-notch service to businesses to know that if something goes wrong, which it's technology, things go wrong, it happens to everyone, but they have someone to call, a real person. Banks offer a suite of services, and I think, I can't speak for the banks, but I don't think that providing FPOS is at the top of their list. They've got loans and mortgages and all that sort of stuff. So when you are calling a bank, they're triaging a lot of different issues from a lot of different customers, whereas we just deal with FPOS. So we like to think that we're better able to service those customers and those business owners.
I think the human connection that you mentioned there, and I know we talked a little bit briefly before I hit record here, but you
Mm.
know, there's the world of AI, there's pictures, there's different, and it's even hard to speak to someone, let alone have them on a podcast. So that's why I'm so
Mm.
excited that you're here to go, hey, we're Zeller and we're actually interested in, speaking to small
Yeah,
business face to face. And I think that is such an important thing because a lot of people are sick of, going for the large corporations where there is no face
yeah.
behind the business, or we're seeing a lot of AI type of ads or
Mm.
content that are going out there that isn't really delivering what the small businesses need. They're more delivering of what they think or what AI has told them that the small business needs. So I
Exactly.
think that the fact that you're on the ground and you're going, look, I'm noticing this with small business, this is where the change needs to happen. I think that's incredible.
It's definitely one of the joys of the job, just getting to know so many business owners in Melbourne. Like I feel like I go into so many businesses, and I know the owner because they're a customer or we've met previously, and even if they decided not to go with Zeller, it's still so great to actually meet these people face to face. And they've got so many challenges that they want to speak about, and FPOS is a small part of business, but you can definitely, like, it feels good to be able to actually help someone and solve an issue for them, and actually get that face-to-face interaction and walk away and be like, okay, this is what I did, I solved a problem with a person today.
And I think it's something as well with it's been like FPOS, as you mentioned, is your expertise, whereas
Mm,
other banks are dealing with different things. But FPOS has had such a big thing in the media lately because of all the changes coming. So to know that there is a detailed team there to go, look, this is our jam, this is what we've got, you're going to speak to a real person, I think is really important at the moment with all the changes that and I know you touched on it briefly, the RBA surcharges that are coming and how that's going to look. But a lot of businesses are now going, okay, how can we adapt? How can we pivot? What can we do? So the fact that you guys are just a phone call away, really, or
yeah.
unless you pop into the shop or a cafe to go, hey, this is how it's going to help and how we're going to make that transition a little bit easier for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's a confusing time. Like I still speak to customers who, aren't even aware of the ban, or they misunderstand it. They think that it's going to be free regardless, or they just have misunderstandings. It's a confusing area, and again, like business owners, they're very, very time poor. They don't have time to read the whole RBA summary. So we're really trying to educate business owners and get ahead of the change. And I think now also, in my opinion, when you do have to pay for a service, so now business owners are going to have to incur the fee. You're going to really look at the other things. So, what value does this product bring? Like, what else is it bringing to the table? Is it bank accounts, saving accounts, other features? And I think that Zeller is really well placed in the market because we do offer a lot of other features that really round out the product. I think it is one of our big points of difference. And again, you've got someone speaking to you who can actually explain what's going on and hopefully guide you through it.
Beautiful. So we've spoken about Zeller. Now let's talk a little bit about you because this podcast is all about her story. So knowing the people behind what they're
Mm,
doing. So you work in a very, let's be honest, male-dominated space in
yes.
fintech, financial tech. How do you find that as a woman in this
Mm.
male-dominated space?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, ever since starting my first sales job, I've always been in the minority group of women in a team. I think in my first sales team, it was 10, and I was one of 3 women. In my second sales team, similar. And currently, my team is actually all men. So it's definitely an interesting position to be in. I think sometimes, I don't even notice because I'm so used to it and so used to the environment. But, I have done some reflection in preparation for this. And I think, some of the main things I think about being a woman is just like the self-doubt that you have. I'll often say, to my boss, like, oh, I just got lucky with this, or I got lucky with that, and right place, right time. And, I do think luck and those sort of things play a part in career and life in general. But, I do think that a lot of men probably think like, no, I got this because I worked hard and I'm great at my job. Whereas women, I think, tend to talk themselves down. So that's one of the main things I've been trying to change in even how I speak to myself, or when I'm speaking to other women, or women are speaking about their own achievements, is saying like, no, you did this, like, have a look at what you did, this was the outcome, like you drove that, it wasn't just because you were lucky or this or that, it was you actually doing it. I think that comes naturally to men. That's definitely what I've seen in the environment, and I've been lucky also to pick that up. I work with a lot of men. They're very self-assured, very confident. So in some ways, you do pick that up and you do back yourself. But I think definitely when I started, I was just like, I don't really know what's going on. And I've often said to people, like, I've just found myself now managing a team of 8 account executives. But no, I put in a lot of hard work to get here, and hopefully that shows.
I think, and I know doing a lot of these episodes with this podcast, as you mentioned, women seem to doubt themselves and feel more of an imposter when they're doing things. So we hear the word like every episode, almost every episode I've done, it's all about imposter syndrome, like how am I overcoming that and what am I doing? But I think you made a really good point. Like, you work with so many men, it's good to steal their self-confidence and their self-assurance and go, I'm just going to be like them. That's the learning I'm going to get from these men around me, instead of feeling more like an imposter and hiding yourself. No, I'm going to access this energy they're putting out there and go from there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I feel very grateful that, the mentors I have in the business, although they may be men, like, have really uplifted me and given me that sense of confidence. And when I do turn to them and say, oh, it was just luck, or, I'm feeling like an imposter, they do say, no, like, you worked hard for this. So I do feel very lucky to have people that back me in that sense as well.
Beautiful. So you are head of regional sales in Victoria. So you've got to sell, right? And you said you've got 8 staff members underneath you. So
Yes.
are there any like characteristics of a good salesperson? Is there anything the small businesses can do to maybe increase sales or increase the way that they look at sales?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's a unique environment that we sell in. Like, we're selling a physical product. It's very different. I guess when people hear of tech sales, they're probably thinking of SaaS sales, so services as software. So that's kind of a different world from what I do. So I can only speak to my world. I think my best sellers are actually the people that are most consistent. So the people that kind of do the same thing day in, day out, which I think is actually harder said than done. I think a lot of people think like they've got to do the big spurts of energy and call 100 people or email or whatever it is, but I actually find people that are emotionally consistent and consistent in their work do the best. So, they're doing the same thing every day. As it's repetitive, it's boring, but, I always say, like, if you're putting in the inputs, you will get the outputs, even when it seems like it's not working. So that's one of the biggest things I try and coach on, because, in a sales environment, you get people that are just real go-getters, and sometimes you can have those dips, and every sales job has dips. I'm sure as many people in your network who work in sales will tell you that. But I would say consistency is one of the biggest things I see. The grit is probably one of the biggest things, especially in my industry. You get a lot of no's. Like, a lot of people, like I said, we're talking about business owners, they have a million things on their plate, so they're often going to say no to you. Often you have to approach them 5-10 times. We have customers that we've won over on the 10th time, so having that grit to get through to them is also really important.
I like that. Consistency, I think, is with anything really, with small business, you need to be consistent. And at times it may feel a bit boring, or like, I've tried this, I've tried, it's not working. But when you're being consistent and showing up, people notice. And as you said, on
Exactly.
that 10th no, they finally go, well, I can't get rid of her. Like she's here. We'll just say
Exactly.
yes and maybe it will
Yeah, and
change.
the environment's changing all the time as this surcharge ban goes to show. But there's always something in the market that makes people kind of think, okay, now I want to look at this, now I want to look at that. And I've always I've been surprised many times. I've heard no many times, and then someone's come back to me and said, actually, now's the right time, and it's because of something small that they've heard in the general market, or perhaps a friend spoke to them and made a referral, or spoke positively about the brand, and then they go, okay, you know what, it's worth speaking to, but you've got to put yourself in that position for them to know you, and even if that means they say no to you 5-10 times, there's always, or very likely, going to be something that changes for them to actually say, you know what, this is now on my mind, and who I'm going to call. I'm going to call Emilia, or the person that's been at my door 10 times, obviously without annoying and being respectful, but that sort of perseverance and showing up does wonders, especially again in person. Like, people are so used to, you even get like these AI phone calls now and emails, and, calling and emailing are an important part of a sales job, but you can't go past a face-to-face interaction, I think.
Very true. And with personal touches as well, like people do start to notice, especially with everything that is AI. But yeah, some great points there raised about consistency and showing up. And I think that with any business, especially with the noise, like the world is particularly very noisy at the moment.
Mm,
And, because everyone can start a business, everyone can have a social media, everyone can jump on a platform and share their things. So it's to make sure that you're showing up consistently, and also realizing that your touch points with customers change. As you said, it might not be the time right now, things have changed. And sometimes it's just because you have been there. Because I remember when I was studying my master's, it was all about, 7 to 10 touch points. And now it's like 20 to 30
mm,
that you need to touch point with a client for them to keep you recognized because of the noise that's all around you.
exactly.
So I think they're very good points about sales. Consistency may seem boring, but it's going to get you where you need to go really at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's the building block of probably any good sales job. I don't think it doesn't matter what you're selling, whether that thing, is a longer sales cycle or a shorter sales cycle. I always say that like changing your FPOS is a bit like changing your SIM card provider on your phone. So what I mean by that is it's something that's pretty easy to do actually, and it's very easy to just swap and change. But, when you find a good provider, like it's very easy to stay with them, and, people can offer you $5 less or 10 gigs more data, but you're like, you know what, this is really consistent and it's great and it works. So I guess you want to firstly get in the door and understand that it's very easy to swap around, and so how are you going to be creative and how are you going to kind of make yourself a bit different? But when you're in the door, like how do you provide that consistent good service to make them stay?
I think as well, and I know in our community and with our listeners, a lot of it is the tech issue. So also going, well, changing our FPOS, like you mentioned, is like a SIM card, but for a lot of people, it sends them into overwhelm because they're like, oh, it's new tech and I have to change all the
Mm,
systems. So the fact that there is someone on that you can call and say, look, I think I've broken it. It's not set up correctly. It's good to know that you're not then jumping through a help manual. You're not jumping through some AI bot that you've got to get the correct language to get the problem.
yeah,
There's someone on the
exactly.
other end to go, okay, tech is overwhelming, but we're here because you want the product to be used. So you're
Yeah.
treating the client like we're going to set this up correctly, it's going to be right. And, new tech isn't scary. And I know with a lot of the women in our community, and as we get older, and the way tech is developing so
Mm,
fast, and, you've got more of a tech background than me, but a lot of people are gun shy. So they're concerned about what the implications would be with that
mm.
switch. So knowing that there's someone there that, as you mentioned before, expert in FPOS, know it all, and can easily help someone set up, I think that's also a really good characteristic that more businesses need to implement.
Yeah, and you could probably take that within their own systems, and also like when they're speaking to different suppliers, or anything to do with running a business. Like I guess taking that risk is worth it when you have the right people around you to support it.
So we talked about, busy woman leading a team, selling, consistently showing up for clients. How are you juggling this work-life balance thing? Are you juggling it? Is it sort of even? Like, how is that going for you?
Yeah, that's another good question. I think I'm pretty new into this role, so it's been about 8 months, and this is my first leadership role. I've always worked as like an individual contributor, so just selling and contributing to a team target. So I would say the first few months were definitely very tricky. I felt like every day I was learning something, but but in one of those kind of overwhelming ways, and only because the whole skill set was new to me, and I had great support and great mentors, but at the end of the day you just kind of have to like go through it to learn it. So I did feel in my first few months a bit overwhelmed by everything, and trying to balance a social life and my personal life and work, and selling as well. Like I was still selling, and also growing the team. When I started, the team was 4 and it's now 8. So yeah, it was tough. I won't lie. I felt like every day, it's kind of maybe that imposter syndrome. Like I, kind of felt like I was doing a bad job every day, but I think in reality I was just learning. And that was a useful skill in itself. Like, understanding that, you're not always going to feel amazing at work, and you can actually feel like sometimes you're not doing the greatest job, but you're actually just learning and picking it up. And no one around me was saying that. This is all a reflection of, how I felt internally. Everyone said, you're doing a great job, Emilia, but I just felt like I knew I could do better. But at the end of the day, like I was new to the role. I just didn't know what I, had to know. And I think I'm definitely in a better place now. I've learned a lot about managing, and also about my team. Like I've got 8 individuals. I've got none of my team, funnily enough, are actually from Melbourne. I'm the only person on my team that was born and raised in Melbourne. I've got people from the Netherlands. I've got a few people from Ireland, people that were raised in different parts of Australia, people from New Zealand. So just a whole host of different characters that I had to learn as well. So that took a while, but yeah, I feel like I'm in a good place now, and I've got better work-life balance for sure. It's definitely, FPOS is 24/7, so it's hard to not let it consume you all at times, because, I won't lie, I do have customers call me on the weekend, but I do have to remember, like, this is their business, this is their livelihood, and I'm more than happy to give my time. But, you do need to be boundaried. Like when work is over, you go home. We've got, a great customer service team that works 24/7, and I trust those guys are amazing. And it's even just letting go of control a little, I think, has been a good lesson I've learned in the past few years. Like you obviously you think, okay, I do a good job, I want to control everything that I can, but controlling everything that you can will just eat up your time and your mental energy. And sometimes you do need to learn to let go and trust that the people around you are skilled. And, I always have, but, there's that thing in your head of like, oh, I just need to do everything. And I think women probably maybe have that more than men, they do everything. They do friends, family, career. But yeah, learning to let go has probably been one of the biggest helpful things in the past few months to make me feel a bit more balanced in the role.
And I think like as you mentioned, with women, we try and do everything at all times, and then I guess it's also, it'll be done right.
Exactly.
It'll be like subconsciously, if we do it, it'll just be done, and it'll be done right. There'll be no double handling. I won't have to worry about it later. Yeah, it'll just. But as you said, like sometimes gripping too hard or being in control, and realize that unfortunately we can't control people's reactions or actions around us. So
Exactly.
I have a saying that I use where I just say, bless them, bless their cotton socks, they'll figure it out. They can come back and we can figure it out again.
And that's like a big thing with management, I guess. I was used to only controlling what I could control, and now I can't control what my 8 reps do. I can, coach, I can influence, I can say, hey, this is what I think is the right thing to do. But at the end of the day, they are autonomous people that know what their job is. And so sometimes I've learned that I do need to let them fail, and I can advise, but it's actually a better learning opportunity for them to fail and then come back to me and for us to repair and work on it together, instead of me just being like, don't worry about it, I'll do it. And then they never have the learning opportunity to actually handle that themselves, whether that's here or in the next role that they do. So I've realized that I'm actually, taking away from their learning in order to just feel kind of like I can control everything, but it's not useful for me and it's not useful for them. So I think that's been a really good learning recently.
Is there anything that you wish you knew before you joined a startup? And the reason I ask this question is there's a lot of people that are in the startup phase and they're escalating quickly and they want to bring on a team, but they're worried that people will be just like, oh, it's a startup, I'm not interested. So is there anything you wish you knew before you joined on with Zeller?
Yeah, interesting. I guess have had maybe the unique opportunity where I've never really worked in like a large kind of corporation in my career. So the first job I worked in for that freight forwarder, I think technically was a startup, but I just didn't realize, like, they didn't brand themselves as a startup, but they were just like a small kind of family Aussie business that wasn't really like that kind of tech startup kind of branding that you see now. So I guess I kind of have all my roles, I've been kind of used to it. And then I worked for like selling a SaaS software where they were a big company, but we were a small Melbourne office. They were based in Copenhagen. So again, we kind of ran in that startup sense. So I guess that's all I've really known. And I think, I don't know if I could go to one of those larger corporations. I think maybe I'd tell people or tell myself, like, don't be scared of the challenge and embrace everything a startup has to offer. I think I've definitely seen that, I've had the opportunity to move up a lot quicker in my career than I think I would have if I was at a more traditional corporation. So yeah, I think I've been lucky in that sense that I probably wouldn't tell myself anything. I'd probably just say strap in for the ride and see where it takes you, and don't be afraid of that.
Beautiful. If there was anything you could share with the small businesses that are listening, and it can be, I know you're an expert in FPOS with Zeller, or, your fintech experience in a male dominated industry,
Mhm.
but if there was any like tip you could give any of the listeners that are listening, what would it be?
Good one. Well, just, yeah, I was going to say, depends on, I don't know, I can go FPOS, I can go business. Let me
Whatever you feel
think.
like sharing today. You can share both
Yeah.
if you like, but
I mean, like, it's a bit generic, but I think not doubting yourself is maybe one of the biggest ones. Like, whether you're trying to get your business off the ground, or you're trying to make waves in your business, or you're trying to get that role. Like, just back yourself 100%. Like, everyone I'm sure in your network is competent and highly intelligent. I think that will get you very, very far. So absolutely just back yourself. And, if you have to do that in a sales role. If you're selling, back who you are, back what you're selling, and you'll go super far, I think. I like to think.
I think it's very important too, because at the end of the day, let's face it, if you don't back yourself, who is? And then if you don't back yourself, how do you expect other people's to back you? So especially in
Yeah.
a leadership role, like you mentioned, you need to back yourself for your team to be like, I'm going to follow what she's doing. So I think that even though it may sound like generic, it's things that slip up. So it's so
Mm,
important to realize that you need to, and especially in your role in a male dominated industry and as a small business, we need to keep showing up and
mm,
showing up more. As you said, consistency. So showing
yeah.
up consistently and not doubting yourself. I think it's an amazing tip.
Yeah. Well, and you made a great point. Like, if I'm doubting myself and thinking, oh, like, I'm not good at my job, like, the team is definitely going to read that energy from me, and then they're going to start to think, they're going to like sense that from me. So even if you kind of have to fake it a little, or just like put on a smile and be like, nope, I back myself today. I'm leading this team. Like, I'm not calling the shot, sounds a bit intense, but like, I'm influencing what the tone is of the day. Like, they definitely pick it up from you. I've definitely learned they're looking to a leader to set the tone. And so I think doubting yourself only, like, it affects you at the end of the day, but also it affects the people in your team. And a lot of small business owners will have small teams, and they probably don't realize that, like, everyone's looking up to you as that leader, as the owner of the small business. So doubting yourself not only affects you, but it affects the wider business. So why not just back
Yeah.
yourself, even if you have to fake it for a little?
And then not only does it affect your team, but then it trickles down to your clients because they'll feel it.
Mm,
So
yeah,
everyone will sort of feel it in your little ecosystem of your business.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
yeah, as you said, fake it, rock up with that smile, and then you can go home and have your moment, whatever
yeah.
that looks like to get you all G'd up. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm so glad that Zella's here. So I know Zella has a partnership now with ALIBI, and I'm going to put all those details down below. So if you've been thinking about you're looking at a new FPOS machine, you want someone that is human connected and that they know what they know, and you're sick of the big four banks, either way, let's say it, you're sick of them as well. So I'm going to pop all of those partnership details below. Please click the link, head over. I know that Zella, I've been dealing with your amazing team member, Katie, and she has crafted an amazing deal with Zeller, a collaboration that is only available to ALIBI. So I'll pop all that link below. But thank you so much for showing up for
Thank you
us
for having
as a
me.
face to face.
Yes, no, it's been lovely. And yeah, for anyone out there listening, we'd be more than happy to help you out. So reach out to us. You'll deal with me or one of my fabulous team members. So yeah, we love helping people out. We love helping businesses out. It brings me a lot of joy. So please reach out. And thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.